Okay, we are recording.
Okay, I might be. Okay, I'm back. I think I was paused there for a second. So we're going to be talking about open source contribution, and basically, in particular, we're going to be talking about how to write an issue on GitHub that makes sense to any package maintainer with as little context as possible necessary to be able to convey a bug or some behavior you don't expect.
It looks like we lost Jackson.
Yeah.
In the
Jackson
meantime, yeah, he's gonna recover sometime soon, hopefully. In the meantime, it would be great if people can join the document that we usually use. So I'm gonna share my screen so you can copy the link here. Basically, the format is the date. So it's always at bit.ly, and always is the format is the date of today, and then DSI.
Okay, so I think I'm back. My internet connection is pretty unstable, which is not great. So let's just hope for the best of this, and we'll see how it goes, I guess.
Good. I'll stop sharing then and leave you the control again.
Sure. So yeah, I'm going to paste the link to this shared document in the group chat, and please click on it and have a look at yeah, just shared Word doc. So for those of you who are new to ds-incubator, as in Jacob and Daisy over here, we kind of are using this Word document to kind of keep track of questions and notes as you go through things, and to keep track of any information you learn as you're going through these sessions. We're going to skip sign-in because it's already a bit late. So this is just kind of an outline of what we're going through, the setup, and basically I just want you to focus on this questions chunk at the end of the document. So can everyone vote in Slack or in Zoom and just say when they've opened the document and they see this shared Google Doc? Oh, shit, no.
Yeah, completely offline, I don't know.
Okay, so Berlin has terrible Wi-Fi right now. Surprise, surprise. We're just gonna try our best. Okay, that's I guess enough people. So yeah, please go ahead and click on the second link in that list of links to open up this RStudio project, where we're going to be kind of going through the workflow together. And I'm going to share my screen as well, so you can see. Mara, you have to make me a host so I can share my screen.
Ready now.
Okay, awesome. So can everyone confirm that they see this this same bit.ly document, or the same Google Docs document? And just vote in the participants thing if you see it. Okay, I'm trusting that it's sharing okay. So if you guys just go ahead and click on this second link right here, you open up an RStudio cloud project, and this is where we're going to kind of be going through the process together. In particular, it should spin up our markdown file titled open source expectations for open source contribution. So I'll give you guys a couple seconds to open that up, and also Berlin here if the internet's just not working at all.
Supposedly it is, but it doesn't do much. So
okay. Are you guys both offline as well?
It's working for me.
Okay. Well, let's just hope for the best, and I guess just follow along here. We can go over it again after. So basically, what we're going to be doing here is downloading a kind of pretend development R package directly from GitHub, finding out that a couple of the functions in this package are broken and have some pretty obvious bugs in them, and then kind of just figuring out what the best way to communicate those bugs to package maintainers might be. So if you guys go to the first chunk here, the package that we're going to be playing with is this 2 degrees investing / demo package on GitHub. And if you go back in the Google Sheets, there's a link to it right here, so you can go ahead and open that if you like. And you don't really need to worry about the code that's in here that much, but this is kind of the package that we're going to be pretending is some development package that you want to contribute to, or you want to flag an issue to, or something like this. So the first step is going to be installing this package in RStudio directly from GitHub. So I'm going to give you guys just a minute and try to figure out how to install the package that's at this link directly into RStudio using this devtools install GitHub function. So I'm going to just do a minute now on the timer, and just give me a ping when you've figured out how to install this package and get them loaded up. What's that? Oh, shit. So that's a minute. If anyone is everyone able to figure out kind of how to edit this code chunk to install the package? And if anyone has questions, just feel free to ask them directly in the chat. Okay, so I'm just going to keep going. So again, you can pull up the documentation for the function here as well. But basically, all we have to specify is 2 degrees investing. So the organization name or owner name and the repo name. And if this repo is interpretable as an R package, then we'll be able, and we have correct privileges to look at this repo, then we're able to install it directly into RStudio. So we can hit go, and this should go ahead and install the package right here. Which I'm realizing might be a nightmare because of my internet. Okay, so now we have this kind of development package installed, and this could be anything that Mara and I are working on, or could be symbolic of a development version of a tidyverse package, or it could be a bunch of different things. The first thing we want to go kind of do when we have this package going is first of all load it up, and then kind of have a look at the functions that are available in it. In particular, I want you to pull up the documentation for the function add that's in this package. And with that documentation, I want you to try a couple of simple examples to see what that function is meant to do and if it works, basically. So I'm going to give you another minute on the timer and just kind of play around with this code chunk and pass a couple of different arguments to that function and just see what happens.
Can you add characters?
No, that's only it's only numbers.
Oh, I like that.
Chuck, so I'm seeing that there is quite a bit of cool material in your presentation, and we are already 10 minutes into, so just kind of suggesting to move a little bit.
Sure. Okay. So let's. I mean, yeah. So we can just have a look here. I just basically wanted to show you that the add function right here, if we load it up, you can see the documentation. It's really just meant to sum the values of its two arguments, and if you give it, 2 and 2 and let it go, you might expect this should give you 4, and it gives you 0. So obviously there's a bug. It's returning some unexpected behavior, and it's something you might want to report to the maintainers to have them fix or to fix yourself. So there's multiple different ways that you can do this, and I kind of just want you to look at my screen for now because I'm just going to demo different examples of how you might do this. The first thing you want to do, obviously, is go to the GitHub repo of this package and go into issues. And I've already kind of posted a couple different issues, and there's different ways that you can explain what's going wrong or what's happening that you're not expecting. You can do this. Don't do this. This is useless and not super helpful to the people that are working on the package. The add function doesn't add values properly. Please fix it. What doesn't it do properly? What's not happening? How can I see what you're seeing? How can I visualize the error that you've found that you want to try to communicate to me? So this is not the most useful issue that you might see, and in particular, it's gonna beg for a bunch of questions from us that say, okay, well, explain yourself, or try to elaborate a little bit more. The easiest thing, or a better kind of thing that you could do to describe that is to use a reproducible example to show exactly what the output is that you're not expecting, so that we can actually reproduce that output directly and figure out kind of where the bug might be coming from. So what I want you to do, I've already installed the reprex package in this RStudio Cloud session. What I want you to do is select this code chunk right here, just in between the R chunks right there. Click on add-ins and click on reprex selection. And I want you to paste, it'll copy something to your clipboard. I want you to just go ahead into the GitHub issues of this repo, add a new issue, and just paste whatever the output of that is in, and click start new issue. So I'll go over it after a minute, but just go ahead and try and do that. Sorry.
Which one?
Line 55.
Line 55.
Yeah. So you just copy that chunk right there.
Ah, yeah.
And then on add-ins at the top, click reprex selection. Okay, so I'm gonna stop the timer now. And if you haven't finished up with that, that's totally cool. But basically, I'm just gonna run this code chunk first to kind of show you what it outputs on my console. So if I click go, I see this loads the library demo. It tries to add 2 + 2 as you might expect. You'd expect the output to be 4, and you can see in the console that or even in line right here that it outputs 0. If I select this, click reprex selection. No.
I think you need to choose yes on RStudio Cloud so you can.
Yeah, gotcha. Alrighty. Obviously, didn't try this on cloud. Shit. All right, so I'm not sure.
You probably have to run the reprex again.
Okay. This shouldn't happen in RStudio for real, but it's happening in the cloud session, so that's annoying. And we take this kind of direct output, and normally this would just copy directly to your clipboard, but because we're in a cloud session, I guess it's a little bit different. But you can just copy this directly, this output here, and open a new issue in the GitHub repo. Say it's a bug, and in the body of the issue, you just paste that output directly in. And if I open the preview now, I see kind of like a stylized R code of exactly what the issue is happening and what issue is going on, and you know, this comment of what you would expect and the actual output from the console. Now the power of this is that it kind of starts a fresh, like clean rerun of the R console to generate this code. Meaning that it's not reliant on anything you have in your global environment. It's not reliant on some data set that you imported and did a bunch of manipulations on that no one else could possibly reproduce. It's really just dependent on whatever code you've highlighted. So when I or Maro or another maintainer goes to kind of try to reproduce this example, we can just copy this code directly into our console, and we don't need any of the CSVs you used beforehand, and we don't need any of the other kind of data sets that may have gone into you know, making this error. So you can give a more of a description at the top, but honestly, just to say like, yeah, I expect the output to be 4, add doesn't return expected value. That is more than enough for us to write a failing test and to kind of try to start addressing that problem without understanding necessarily where it comes from or understanding any of the other context to that problem. So that's more helpful than saying anything else about why that function might not work. Now that's kind of like an abstract example. Obviously this function is a pretty simple, it's a pretty simple add function. It's not really anything that we're going to be working on at 2DI, but it's just to kind of get your ideas out there. So let's go to a little bit more of a more realistic example. So I want you to go back to the R Markdown file and go to line 65 here. We're going to look at a different function in the demo package. And I want you to pull up the documentation for calculate average production by groups. So if you want to type it quickly, you can just type $demo : C, and then tab to autocomplete it. Just have a look at the documentation. I'll give it a minute there. Actually, I'm just going to give it less than a minute. So I'm just going to pause now. But I'm going to pull up this documentation right now, and we see that this is kind of something more reflective of what we might see at 2DI. I want to calculate the average production of a data frame, and this might you know, calculate the production of the average production of an asset level data set, or the average production in their portfolio, or you know, something that we may actually see in practice. In the back end, it's really just a simple wrapper of group by and mutate or summarize, so it's nothing really that special. But notice that it has 2 arguments. It has a data argument, which is the you know, prime data set that's going to be adding the mean production to, and then this ... argument, which accepts additional grouping variables. So for the sake of time, I'm just going to go through it kind of myself. I've already downloaded our 2DI data in this RStudio Cloud session, so we can load up a fake asset level data set and have a look at something that we might see in practice. So here's the head of this. I've just loaded in this ALD demo file and shown the head of this data set, and you can have a look here. It's got power companies and technology and production unit, year, etc. Things you might expect to see in the actual ALD. So we can use this We can use the calculate average production by groups function directly on this file, in particular by just passing an ALD here. Oops. Right, it's okay. This should work. And so we see if we don't pass any of the grouping arguments, it just calculates the average production of the whole data set, which is not really something that makes a whole lot of sense. If we pass it, a sector grouping argument, it'll calculate the total average production by sector, which makes a little bit more sense. If we pass it a technology grouping argument, it calculates the average production per sector per technology of the total asset level data set. So it's not the most useful function, but at least it's a little bit more representative of like what we're working with day to day. And I want to show you what happens if we take this ALD file and set just one value in production to NA. And let's take let's try this and run that. And so you can see, oh, oops, I'm going to see that. Sorry. You can see now that I just set some arbitrary value to NA, and now the output of this average production in the power sector is an NA here. And so this might be what you want. You may want the function to not handle NA as well and just to output garbage if it gets NAs in. But you may want it to automatically omit NAs or to do some pre-processing to make sure that it actually gives you some value that makes sense. So this is a little bit more complicated to, the rest of this is just gonna be a demo because it doesn't make sense to kind of keep having it be interactive. But this is a little bit more complicated to make a reprex for, to make an issue for, because you're now using this quite large asset level data set. It's going to be some massive join data set of a bunch of different things, and you need to figure out the easiest way to express what the bug is without necessarily needing to have some 3 GB file sent to someone that's looking for what the issue is. And so I've just for this particular problem, it's a little bit easy to isolate. You can say, all right, I expect this to not output NAs. So rather than use this, this modified ALD data set, I know that all I really need is a data set that has the column production, at least one value, and at least one NA, and some sector in it. So I can go on to Excel, and I've already done this. Kind of draft this really tiny ALD data set that only has 9 entries in it. Copy it directly, and I'm going to use this package that CJ pointed me out to called datapasta. But I can say ALD demo highlights bug, whatever you want to call it, doesn't really matter, and use the under the add-ins again, under datapasta, click paste as dribble. Fuck, it's still because of this RStudio. Okay, well, it's easier to do in actual RStudio. And now I have, very quickly, I have a R interpretable representation of that Excel file without having to load it in as a CSV, without having to do any pre-processing, just copied directly into the R console. And, just to show you, I can see what that looks like in RStudio. You see it's just a tibble, and it has an NA value. It has only 3 columns in it. It's a really, really, really small example data set. And now I can load this demo package and try to add so if I run this chunk, I'm loading the demo package, defining this data set that's kind of illustrating the bug that I'm finding, and calling the function where the bug kind of shows itself. And if I click go on this chunk, you can see there's still an NA under power, which is not what I want. And rather than have this massive data set to show that bug, I have a really, really small kind of portable bit of code that highlights that bug. And I can just copy that again, as I did before. Reprex selection. Do this fun, click yes if you're in here. And then copy this directly into an issue. So now, rather than having to kind of, explain, oh, this calculate function gives NAs for certain sectors for this data set. And when I'm using this asset level data set that I have locally on my computer, that's really big. And I'm going to email you the file and I'll send you the Google Sheets of this file. And then can you Skype me and we'll go on a Zoom call and spend a whole day trying to figure out what's going on. You can just post this really, really small portable chunk that highlights exactly what the bug is and say, I expect this, I expect the output for power to be 100 instead of NA, or something like this. I mean, you don't have to even write that. You can actually write that in code even. And now I can look at this and directly write a test that makes sure that the output does look like that, and then fix the code until that test passes. So yeah, I guess those are just kind of two tools. There's obviously a bunch of different ways that you can go about doing this, but those are just two tools that you can quickly use to kind of draft things in Excel, paste them as small tibbles in RStudio, and paste them as replexes directly on GitHub. I'm gonna go for questions now because I think that the meeting's gonna end soon. And yeah, I guess that's basically it for now. Feel free to reach out with questions also, because I know that was a bit rushed, but yeah.
Yeah, Jackson, first of all, thank you for sharing this thing. And I really think this is one of the best practices that should be implemented. But my opinion is in order to make it work, let's say on the GitHub, if you want to contribute to the repository, then you have a contribution guide and you have a tick marks. And if you are meeting so-and-so criteria, then you contribute to it. Similar to that, whenever if something raising the issue or feature implementation, we need to have a template on each repository that says if you are adding an issue or adding for a feature request needs to be in this point. So if there is a template, then even if there is a new user, they don't, let's say there are other people who haven't attended this session, they might be able to get an idea based on that template. And also I would say if everybody uses it, then it could work the best also.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I totally agree. There are issue templates also that we have in place that Mauro drafted, but I absolutely agree. We need to just set kind of the standard of what we expect. But I think it's also just helpful to go through it step by step and show people that it's not necessarily that hard to generate those things. Are there any questions also from people who are less familiar with reproducible examples and have no idea what I just did or why it's useful, or any questions like that?
I'll just throw in a quick suggestion. It's a good thing to try and minimize the data. The data pasta thing is really cool. It makes a small, reproducible version of your data, but yeah, it pays off to minimize that data frame to something that just shows your problem rather than a massive thing.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
Very good point. So it also it kind of is a balance, because that means that the person identifying the bug needs to think more about why the bug's happening to make this really small data set to isolate where the bug is happening. Yeah. So it's kind of, depends on who has time and everything, but definitely the smaller the data set it is that can show where the bug is happening, the easier it's going to be for everyone to figure out how to fix it.
And often that process itself shows you exactly what's wrong, and then you can make a better issue and say oh, I realized you're summing but not using a na.rm equals true.
Exactly.
Thanks a lot. That was great. We are at the 30 minutes mark now, and Data Herald is about to start. Thank you, everyone. Those two comments were awesome. There is the file contributing.md, which is an official kind of ish file for contributing guidelines. So thanks for that reminder, Pranav. I think we should totally add that to every report. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Jason.